Hi guys, it's Didi here. In today's video I'm gonna give you the steps to follow when choosing the right nursery or daycare for your child. Here in the UK we call it nursery. In the US I think it's called preschool or daycare. Regardless how you call it in your country, these are the steps that you need to consider before choosing the right place for your child. Choosing a nursery is one of the toughest decisions that lots of parents take, especially when we have so many options around us and so many different educational approaches and theories. So you better get it right, but if not, you can always change your mind later. So the 6 things to do is, first of all, it's consider the basics. What are the things that you need to think of? These are how close is the nursery to where you live and how expensive it is. Can you afford it? Can you afford the time to drive your child if the place you like is far away from where you live? Because trust me, it makes a huge difference if the daycare is very close to where you live and you don't need much time in the morning, especially when you are rushing with a little child. Once you decide on that, you can choose the right philosophy that you want to follow. And by educational philosophy, I mean the most recognized out there, such as Montessori, Waldorf or Steiner or Reggio Emilia, and I'm sure that there are many others, but these are the main. Montessori is very much about following the child and giving freedom within limits. The Waldorf, or called also Steiner in Europe, it is about imaginative play, and the Reggio Emilia approach is about providing opportunities and resolving problems with creative thinking. And a lot of people would say it doesn't really matter at that age, but it matters if you are planning the education of your child long term. So if you want your child long term to end up in Waldorf school, for example, you would rather send them to a kindergarten or daycare that provides the Steiner education, so they don't see the differences. If you want them to continue with Montessori education, it's better if you send them to Montessori school. Number 3 is decide on your non-negotiable. For example, for me, non-negotiable was that I wanted the place to have an outdoor space. Many places here in London don't have outdoor space. And for me, it was very important because one of the main things I wanted for Mika was that he spends at least 2-3 hours outside every day. And that's how he has been raised since he was baby. He'll be out for very long periods of time every day. So for me, non-negotiable was an outdoor space. For you, it could be, is there a free flow? If it's Montessori, usually there should be a free flow, meaning that the child can decide to go out whenever they want and then come back. If there is no outdoor space, there may be a park nearby. Do they take the kids outside every day? So these are the things that you need to think of. Also, another non-negotiable can be what is the food that they cook. Lots of nurseries provide food that is not appropriate for the kids. Lots of nurseries provide desserts, which are sweets and full of sugar, and you probably would rather not have them eating that. And once you decide on your non-negotiable, then you can look for what is the selection of nurseries around you that offer you these sorts of things that you're looking for. Once you choose the nurseries you want to visit, prepare yourself with questions and go to see it. Usually here in London, at least, we book an appointment. We can go with or without our child. Better to go without your kid because otherwise you have to run after your child all the time. When you go there are certain questions that you need to ask, and the main are, of course, what's the ratio of staff versus kids, so how many teachers are taking care of one of the same child. Very important question is there a key person? Key person is someone who is the main teacher of your child, so someone to whom your child can build attachment. According to the attachment theory, as you know, it's really important to have only one person who your child can build a strong relationship with. Another one is ask them about the food, how they prepare it, if your child has any allergies or any other kids have allergies, do they allow food that is with nuts, for example, or dairies or eggs. Another important thing is to ask them how often they take the kids outside and do they take them if the weather is bad. Lots of nurseries says we take them all the time, but then it turns out they don't really do that if the weather is not appropriate. You can ask them whether they have forest school. It's something very popular now. Forest school means that all the kids go somewhere, either in a park or, usually if it's the garden, it's not considered as a forest school, but they're left there for a big chunk of time and they can really explore. They can play with bugs and with leaves and with trees, and they have complete freedom in the space where they're going. Another one to consider is, do they change the nappies of your kids? Depending on where you are, some nurseries want you to take your child out of nappies before you send them there. And of course, if your child is 1 year of age, of course, that's not expected from you. But Quite often, if your child is older, they are not going to change your child. So when you go and collect them, you can see that you need to change their nappies. Another important thing I was really into that was, if my child wants to rest and sleep, do they provide opportunity for kids to sleep? And it's very different in different countries. Where I come from, in Bulgaria, when I was little, we had specifically purpose-built buildings for nursery. So we literally had a room which was only for sleeping, and all of us will go there and sleep for 2 hours in the afternoon. But here, most kids don't sleep after the age of 2, and if you want your child to sleep, if you put them in this habit, you rather ask them if they want to continue this routine in the nursery, how they can arrange a free space or a quiet space for your child to have a rest. Another one is to ask them about the daily routine. Ask them to describe it to you. What do they do? How do they start the day? What do they do until lunch? If you leave your child only for a morning session, it's only 3-hour session. Most Montessori nurseries here work like that. What do they do? Do they have snacks, for example? If they have breakfast and lunch at home, how do you make sure your child is not hungry? And one of the most important questions I think you should ask is, how do they manage children's behavior? For example, if your child bites someone or your child is bitten by someone, what do they do? Do they punish kids? Do they give them time out and put them in a corner? It's very important to know what is the policy of the nursery and how they treat kids when they misbehave. I would also ask whether they have a big turnover of the teachers, or the teachers stay there for a long time. If you want your child to continue in the same place for 2 or 3 years, you would rather have the same teacher and the same key person. And the last one you can think of is to ask whether they have any governmental support. Depending on where you live, here in the UK, for example, the government supports certain hours during the week and they pay instead of you, so that can mean that you're paying much less than what you're expected to pay. Some nurseries, though, don't participate in this funding, so you need to make sure you choose the one that offered that as an option. Next step then is to ask around, and I cannot emphasize how important that is. And if I have to choose again a nursery, I wouldn't have done it the way I did it before. Ask around parents who have sent their kids there. If you don't know anyone, I would suggest you go and wait until the kids finish school, and ask moms when they go out, do they like the nursery? You're considering sending your child there. What do they think about it? And if they say, yes, we really like it, ask them, why do you like it? Because it can happen that it has a brilliant reputation, but for certain things that you disagree with. It happened in my case. I sent Mika to the best nursery in the area based on reputation, based on what people would tell me, but it turned out that the way they teach them there, it's very different than the way I want him to be taught. So yeah, for these people, I'm sure they didn't lie to me. It's the perfect nursery, but these are not the things that I'm looking for. So make sure that you talk to parents and you ask them specifically to describe why they liked something. And if they didn't like something, why didn't they like it? Maybe that's exactly what you like. Maybe this nursery put lots of emphasis on manners and how kids need to behave, whereas you don't care about that much because you want your child to run wild. It's very personal. Make sure you know the reasons why people say that something is good or bad. And last thing I want to leave you with, guys, don't be afraid to change your mind. I was very much afraid to change my mind when I sent Mika, because I thought that he went through the settlement, it took him time to get used to the teachers, to the environment. I didn't like certain things, but I made my choice based on the wrong decisions, based on the good reputation and based on the fact that they had open space outside. For me, it was so important that Mika spends time outside that I didn't think of the fact that he is there only for 3 hours and he can still be outside with me the whole afternoon with his nanny. So sometimes you are caught up into things that you think are important, but then it turns out these are the wrong things to be focused on. So yeah, it was a difficult decision on me and my husband to decide of taking Mika out, but once there is no trust between you and the nursery, intuitively you feel that this nursery is not the right for your child, take action as soon as possible. I actually spoke to other parents who moved their kids from one nursery to another because they didn't feel there was a trust between them and the teachers. And they said the kids were really happy with the new setting. 2 other things to look for, I think I forgot about that, but are really important from my perspective. Do they allow settlement time for you, the parent? Which means, do they allow you to go with your child and spend 10 days, 12, 20 days, 5 days, as long as you need, it's necessary for you to be there? And if they don't, why they don't? Lots of places do not allow settlement time. And second is, do they have an open door policy? Which means if you just decide today that you want to go and see how your child is feeling there, can you do that or you can't? And if you can't, why? So these are two things to as well consider before you choose the nursery. So these are my 6 steps. I hope that they help you in many ways. There are hundreds of questions you can ask, then you can just Google it, questions to ask when I'm choosing a daycare or preschool, and you'll see the list of those. So there are much more than what I'm telling you now, guys. But yeah, I think that these are the most important and the things that sometimes we forget to think about. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment box below, what is your experience with choosing a nursery? Is there something which you consider is really important that I may be forgetting, which then can help other moms? And I'm so looking forward to see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.